Welcome to Humanities 120, Introduction to the Humanities. This is a short introduction lecture to introduce you to the humanities and explain a little bit about what the humanities are. First off, we want to talk about why study the humanities. What is the point of them? If you look on page 16 of your book, your author states, when a person studies the humanities, the arts, the intended result is that he should be better able to understand, design, build, or repair a life for living is a vocation we have in common despite our differences. So with this idea, it's the idea that the humanities can bring us together, that they can help us understand the world in a way in which maybe we had not seen it before. So from that, what are the humanities? Well, the humanities comes from the term humanity, and it includes subjects such as history, languages, philosophy, art, and they all involve studying the culture and ideas. It's distinct from subjects such as the physical sciences, biology, chemistry, geology. That is not to say those are not important, but they are distinctly different from the humanities. So why study the humanities? What can the humanities do for us? Well, there are many things. The most important, though, is that hopefully it can help us understand the world in a new way, to see connections we might not have seen before, and ultimately to help us understand ourselves. In the humanities, we study this because it also allows us to ask the timeless questions. Why are we here? Why do human beings even exist? What is our point on this planet? Why do we die? What happens when we die? Humanities also covers subjects such as the mysteries of God. Is there a God? Big G God? Little g God? Multiple gods? Who is right? Can we ever prove anybody is right? The need for love. Why do humans search and quest for love in their life? The temptation of power. Why do some people not care about how many people and who they hurt in their ultimate gain for power? And why, once somebody is in power, why do we have leaders who are benevolent and wonderful and are worried about their citizens? Why we have other leaders who are so worried about keeping in control that they're not concerned about the basic needs of individuals, that they will go out and they will kill those who oppose them. The injustice of fate. The time-old questions of why do good things happen to bad people and why do bad things happen to good people? The ideas of what qualities makes one thing great over another. And then also the tension between the self and the community. Most of us try to claim that we are doing good in our lives, but what does that mean to do good? Is doing good what is best for ourselves individually, or is doing good what benefits the most people, regardless of how it affects ourselves personally? All of these things are topics that we can explore in the humanities. Now, as you probably have figured out, many of these don't have an answer, but that's fine, because in the humanities, we're more concerned with exploring these ideas, exploring cultures, and critically thinking about different things. And that's what hopefully you will see within this course. The author, Martha Nussbaum, has written a book called Cultivating Humanities. In this, she claims that we study the humanities to enhance our membership in a community, that shared educational, religious, or social experiences provide a common framework of reference, the cultivation of common goals, or the knowledge that happiness may be a function of our relationship with others. She continues that some would say we study the humanities and become participants in the art and humanities communities because they develop our capacity for sympathy, for feeling what others feel, and therefore lead to ethical action and a sense of freedom and justice. Finally, she says how we can achieve this is through a liberal education, that a higher education that is a cultivation of the whole human being for the function of citizenship in life generally. That by not just focusing on one small little subject, but in learning about other cultures, other beliefs, this is how we ourselves can become better citizens and become good citizens, world citizens. And that's what she calls for, that we need to become world citizens. By allowing this, she says, we allow a variety of different views about what our priorities should be, but says that, however we order our varied loyalties, we should still be sure that we recognize the worth of human life wherever it occurs and see ourselves as bound by common human abilities and problems to the people who lie at great distance from us. It's this idea that just because we are human being, that we have some connection to every other human being on this earth. And in that way, we owe each other some sort of duty to try to understand and to ultimately try to help one another. How she claims we can do this, become these world citizens, is through three key capacities for cultivating the humanities. First is what's called the capacity for critical examination of oneself and one's tradition. You may have heard this before. Socrates called it the examined life. What this means is that we as individuals need to examine our own lives, our own belief systems. For example, many of you may be religious. When asked why you are religious, some people say, well, when asked, why do I go to church on Sunday? Well, I've always gone to church on Sunday. That's not a belief, that's a habit. What we need to do as individuals in all aspects of our life is to examine why we believe what we believe, and if we really do believe these things. Take the religion example again. Say I grew up Jewish, and I grew up Jewish because that is how my family raised me. Well, if I've never stopped and examined the tenets of that religion, the foundations, the texts, then that's not an examined life. If I'm just going and following the practices because of a habit, that's actually not a belief. Now, if I go and I explore the tenets, I look at the foundations, I read the text, and I say, yes, this is what I believe, then that's fine. That's an examined life. But you may find that that wasn't actually your belief, and then you change your systems. That's all the examined life is asking for. It's not saying you have to change your beliefs, but that you need to look at them, examine them, and see if they really are your beliefs. The second is the ability to see themselves not simply as a citizen of some local region or group, but also, and above all, as human beings bound to all other human beings by ties of recognition and concern. This is the idea that we are citizens in many different ways. We are citizens of the United States. Many of us are citizens of Kentucky. You're citizens of your smaller town. You can look at groups of citizenship from your family, sports teams, anything like this, clubs. That's a type of citizenship that you owe some sort of obligation or duty to. Well, what Nussbaum is claiming is that we have to step outside that we have to realize that we aren't just citizens of these small local groups, that we are citizens of the world. And as such, we owe a duty, an obligation to all other citizens. And then finally is the capacity to use the narrative imagination. What this is it's the ability to think about what it might be like in the shoes of a person different from oneself, to be an intelligent reader of that person's story, and to understand the emotions and wishes and desires that someone so placed might have. We are not going to be able to experience everything in our lives. Yet, through our narrative imagination, we can try to understand and empathize and sympathize with others. Why should the plight of Syrian refugees matter to you, a college student in Kentucky? Well, it's because of this idea of world citizenship. And how can you understand at least part of the experience? Is learning, is educating yourself, and using this narrative imagination to try to understand what that type of life is like. What we will look at is we will explore much of this through different arts. We will look at parts of the Iliad. We will look at paintings from the Renaissance. And then we will also look at American sitcoms to explore the idea of the family. All of this in the idea of helping you to cultivate the humanities throughout your life. Finally, Nussbaum concludes by stating, becoming an educated citizen means learning a lot of facts and mastering techniques of reasoning. But it means something more. It means learning how to be a human being capable of love and imagination. That is not political correctness. That is the cultivation of humanity. And that is our ultimate goal this semester.